She wears many hats and she has many hustles. She's a woman of hope. She is Nicole Maddox.
Yeah, so I've always wanted to be a lawyer, at least since probably about the sixth grade or so. So many different things inspired me. And so that's the path that I pursued. Went from college to law school, and then went to work for a large New York City firm. Eventually, I ended up going in-house working for a pharmaceutical company and did that for about a decade. So I've always had this creative side of me and not necessarily had the proper outlets for it. And so when I picked up photography the way that I did, I had always been interested. I've had so many different cameras, but eventually I started to turn it into more of a side business that I was able to do, obviously, without interrupting my day job. And it just started taking off naturally. I have, and it's helped me to grow. In addition to that, there's obviously a bunch of online resources. And in particular, I've taken to joining some Facebook groups for photographers where I've learned a ton there too. So Simply Pause was one that was debated for a long time. You know, most people use their name. So in theory, I guess I should have been Nicole Maddox Photography. In the beginning, I thought, well, what if it grows? What if I take more people in? What if it becomes more of a business? I didn't want to necessarily associate it with my name. The term itself for me was just thinking about capturing a moment in time, pausing for a moment and just appreciating that moment in time, and then being able to enjoy that very same moment for years to come. The style that I'm going for is whatever's natural with the family. So I give them some time to warm up. If your intention is to print out photos, what you're going to get off of a cell phone isn't going to be quite the same. I have a client, I went back and visited her after the session that I did with her and her family, and she had turned the entire first floor of her home. I guess it was technically the basement, but she had done huge canvases of the entire portrait session. And because I offer variety, right, not everything is a straight on portrait, maybe it's just someone's hand or hands being held or feet or whatever it might be. She had this beautiful display, but she had them in large canvases, and you're never going to be able to print out and have it look right from a cell phone, those sorts of things. So you can do much more with the professional photography. So I left just because there were just a lot of things going on in life at the time. And I just started looking at life differently about how I wanted to spend my time and how much of my creativity I was really able to still continue doing in light of changes that were happening at my job. And so I left both to be able to grow that business, but also just to be able to focus on the family for a while and just to reevaluate, right? To do a reset, if you will. I think that we pick careers and we think, oh, that's the way I'm going from the time that I graduate until the time that I retire. And I just hit a point in life where I realized it didn't have to be that way. People ask me all the time, so you stopped being a lawyer? I say, of course, you never stop being a lawyer. It's just in everything you do, much to my, kids' horror. But it's not necessarily something I've given up. I still, think about things from a legal perspective and everything else. I decided at that point to stop. And so I did. I started growing the photography business, but then just a few months later, another opportunity came about that I couldn't resist. And so that's where I am now, running two businesses. So the new business, although it's been open, we've had our doors open for over 2 years now, is a co-working space. It's called Office Evolution Stamford. Office Evolution is a larger corporation that's franchised. And so I have a business partner who I used to work with back at the firm in New York. And she and I had opened up Connecticut's first Office Evolution. Under the current governor's order, we're still considered essential for a variety of reasons. And so while we are certainly practicing social distancing and the number of people who are actually there is reduced significantly, we are still open. And what I like to think is that we are allowing businesses to have business continuity at a time when so many are being disrupted in such a way that they're not sure how they're going to bounce back when this is over. So I'd like to think that we're doing our part to keep the economy going, to keep some of these businesses alive at a time when they may otherwise be fearful of what's going to happen next. So it's just a great concept, and I'm just really proud to be part of it right now. So I think that most people, when they get an idea, they just get so excited that they just immediately want to jump into it. The advice that I would give would just be to slow down for a second, because it's tempting to just rush right into something. So for me, my husband and I talked about the possibility of this and what it would mean for us, our family, or for our children. The commitment, obviously, is something that you have to think about. If that's a long-term venture that you're about to get into, what does that mean for in the long run? And then just think about a financial plan. right? Both on how you're going to keep your home going, but also on how you're going to keep your business going. Because one thing I've certainly learned is that all of this involves some serious ups and downs, and you have to be ready to stomach all of that. In particular, it's important to have a business plan if you're going to go looking for funding from anyone. Nobody wants you to come and say, hey, give me money, and you've got no idea really on how you're going to make this work. What are you going to do for marketing? Who's going to be your, how are you going to employ people? What are you going to do from the time that ramp up time? That's the time that it takes, to get really up and going. And sometimes you just don't know how long that's going to be. And so I think all of these things are important. And then lastly, just like I mentioned with the photography, finding good mentors and just really understanding what you don't know and being willing to admit what you don't know and really listening. I think many times we think, oh, I've got this great idea. No, I know what I'm talking about. And many times people fail to listen to wise advice that's given to them. I think that sometimes wise advice might seem like negativity, but you have to kind of, parcel between the two. Somebody might be giving you the other side, playing devil's advocate, because they're trying to help you think through all of the potential issues. And that's a good thing. So I say, listen to all of it and then really develop a plan all the time. On a positive note, I live on this great street that's flat. And so I've done more walking up and down the street. I'm not sure how my neighbors feel about this, but just walking. That's what I do. When I need to just clear my mind, I'm praying, I'm doing whatever it takes to really reset my mind and just stay calm. Because I think staying calm throughout it all is the key to all of it. Yeah, so I'm allergic to the morning. I get out of bed as late as possible, which is probably the opposite of what you're going to hear from any, go-getter who say, get up early. But I'm up late, if that counts at all. I'm just one who really needs rest. And so I do take time in the morning to really think through the day. And then once my feet hit the ground, I'm going from start to finish. I think in a relatively organized way. I've got lots of notes and lists and everything else. And I think that we all have weaknesses. I think it's important to recognize what your weakness is and then develop a plan to overcome the weakness. And so the more you put on your plate, for me, it's, 4 children, my husband, household responsibilities, 2 businesses, right? That's a lot. And so I've started realizing I can't remember everything. I try my best. I write lists, and sometimes I lose those lists. So I've taken advantage of technology, and I will just set alarms all throughout the day to remind me what it is that I needed to know by that time of the day. And it's really helped. So I think figuring out what your weaknesses are, rather than deny that you have them, find a way to overcome them. Before all of this, by this, I just mean the pandemic that we're going through. I tried my best just to not involve the children in anything that was worrying me. And then as I think through all of this, I think, wow, I don't know that that's the best strategy. I think that what we're learning a lot about ourselves through everything that everyone's going through right now, which is, how do I handle a crisis? And I think right now we have this opportunity to teach our children how to handle a crisis, how to survive a crisis, right? How to stay calm in a crisis. And so when I it's not just the pandemic, it's the decreased business and revenue that I'm experiencing this right now. It's obviously not something I want the children to worry about, but I want them to understand that hard times are going to come and we can still breathe through them. And so I've discussed those things with them so that they can watch an example of somebody go through something and still come out okay. So that when they have their own challenges, they can think, I'm going to be okay and I'm going to get through this. And it might take time, but I know that I can do it.
Love that message. Just to wrap things up, I need you to settle a family dispute for us. Nicole, when playing Uno, can you stack a draw 4 on a draw 4? Please resolve this for our family.
I would say yes. My understanding in Uno is that if it's a similar card, you can stack them. Now, I don't know what that means for the person picking up all those draw 4s, but my understanding and my vote is going to be for yes.
I will let them know. Auntie Nicole said yes, you can stack. That's it. Final decision. Last question.
I hope I sided with the girls.
Okay, so say it's 5 o'clock and your kids are listening to music and you ask them what they're listening to and they say, Mom, it's none of your music. Mom, your music is corny. What do you put on, Nicole, to show them something about good music? What are you playing?
Oh man, Rob, there's a lot of them. There is a lot of them. But And I lesser known fact, there are many things I've forgotten over time, but lyrics are not one of them, especially if it took place in the late 80s, early 90s. And so I'm going with Rob Bass, It Takes Two, and we're going through start to finish all of those lyrics, but there's got to be movement with it too. This is usually the point at which my kids start to look at me like I'm crazy, but it is okay.
I love it. So we need to, you're teaching your kids how to be patient, how to persevere through trials, and all the lyrics to It Takes Two. And there it is.
There it is.
Thank you for your time this afternoon, Nicole.
All right. Thanks, Rob.